Hello and welcome to another part in our tutorial session. Now from this model you can see I've created a couple of things. I've completed my model, my basic model for the floors, and I've converted this into an editable poly, and just right click and say convert to editable poly, and I've done that, and all the objects basically I still left my windows and doors as AEC, so I think they're good that way. Why I converted this is so I could adjust a couple of things, and in future we would probably need to do some other things like say apply materials to certain objects. You could as well just throw an edit poly modifier over it instead of putting it converting it totally. Alright, and here my column, and yeah, and I've also added a step and the step area, the step up, which is a 450 step up, which is 150 per step, and I've included this railing equally, so we have the balcony. So what we're not going to do is we're going to create the roof. We're going to create the roof. Before I do that, I'll just show you a bit of thing, which is how to create this stairs. So how I do it is before I think I'll get rid of this, and I'll just create a box. What I'll do is from here create a box, just a box that is slightly bigger than that space. Create a box and give it a 150, and I want the box to come in here a little bit to fill that area. So now what I'll do is I'll just have to cut through that area. You could as well just from there again basically I'll just create another box, I'll clone this, then I'll say copy, and I'll move this up 150, then I can convert this into an editable poly, move this guy in, selecting the vertices here for this particular one, because we have another object right up here. So I'm going to select these vertices on this side to move this guy in, so we get our steps. Move this guy in, then I'll select the vertices on this side to move this guy in. Then I can now clone this equally, clone this, then move it 150 up, then come to this sub-object level again, move this guy in, then come here, select the ones here, then move this guy in. This is a simple way you can get to create this. So, and you can as well just boolean everything together, so that way it joins everything together as one object. And let me show you how to do that. I'll pick this guy, then I'll tell it to boolean. I'll pick my compound object and use my pro boolean. I want a union, not a subtraction. This time I want a union, so I'll just go ahead and union the rest. So now I have that, then I can now convert this into an editable poly. Then I can do a little bit of modification to it, adjust it a little bit, and so that I think I wouldn't want this space to be inside here. So what I'll do is select this, go back to my wireframe mode, select this, move it in here so it covers up that area, because it might cause some accident if it's going to be built that way in real life. So move this in, then maybe this comes out a little bit, and that clears the whole thing. So we have and you could just fine tune it just like I've done mine, and you have your steps there. So then what we now do is we're ready to create our roof. Okay, first we'll create our ceiling with the fascia boards, in which we're going to use this as reference. Let's isolate this, and what we're going to do is our ceiling actually should cover the whole area. As we can see, our ceiling should actually cover the whole area, which is a full a full square around that, so a full rectangle right around that. Now we're going to use rectangle to create that. From our shapes, we go to rectangle. You could as well just use splines and the regular line, just create it around that area, just like so, but a rectangle would do better for that, so why not just use that instead. And we can just go ahead and do this. Then we can of course convert this into an editable spline later, so we can have some modifications to it. I think we just want to cut this small area out, so we create another rectangle, and here right now we remove our auto grid. We now say we want this not to create a new object. So when we uncheck this, it creates the object and it attaches it automatically to this particular one. So what we do, just to cut it through that area, that small cut is what we want. So that's the small cut we want. Then we use that method we had the other time to cut this through with our boolean operation in the spline parameters here. So we say not union this time around, we want a subtract. Then we select the main object, then we select the subtracted object, and it removes that from it. Then we have a very good shape we have here. So now let's see. Then we now have to move this guy to this level. We have to move this guy up to this level. So what we do is we just move, but to move precisely, to place this particular guy precisely at this point, we're going to do a couple of settings, which is quite tricky. So what we're going to do, before we do that, we're going to turn on, we're going to show a particular button which is not always regularly shown. It's by default, it's hidden, and to show it, you just right click anywhere, somewhere in the middle of all these dividers, all these dividing lines here, right click, and you see, you turn on your axis constraints, you check it so it comes up. Now right now I have my axis constraints here, and we have the X, Y, Z, then the double axis constraint, then the snap setting for the constraints for our axis. So what we now want to do is we now want to move this guy up to this point and snap it to this point, and we don't want to snap it to, well, let's turn 3D snap. We don't want to snap it this way because it's now distorted a little bit, but what we want to do is we want to snap it, but we still want it to have it to be in the positioning it is placed, and without moving the position in. We just want to move it along the Z axis basically, and not the X and Y axis. So we select the Z, then you now say snap, use axis constraint. You turn this on, so when you snap, it only snaps in that direction and it doesn't snap in any other direction, even if you have the 3D on. So this is like constraining your snap to just Z axis, so it only moves it along Z and not X or Y. So that is good, this is what we want. Then you can as well just from there turn off your, axis constraint from there. I have mine here and it's hidden somewhere below the line here. Alright, so now that we have that, we can now do an extrude. We can have an extrude. Let's extrude, and we extrude to whatever given height we want our facial butt to be. From our drawing here, we have our facial butt to be extruded with the height of let's see, a height of 300. So when we extrude to a 300, and that should be our fascia. Then we can exit our isolation, and of course you can see I've created a plane here, which is just for I just love to have it there to just have a sense of feel of my floor. Okay, now we have this, and what we're going to do now is create a roof over this one. Now we'll have to create a roof according to the existing roof here. So we would clean this up, remove all the hatch, and remove other unnecessary things, because we just need the lines making up the bridge and the bridge of the roof. I'll do that, and I'll bring this guy in, and I'll come back to the video. Okay, this is the shape for our roof, which I actually got from here, from that, and imported my 3ds Max and cleaned it up, removing a couple of things here. So, and now I have the shape right here. So what I do is basically I'll create a polygon out of this thing. I'll trace it out. Let's go to our top viewport. This is how I work with it. I isolate this, and let's trace out the outer parts by creating a line around it, or we could as well just from here pick the line in there. Let's create our own line so we can have a clear thing right here. So I'll turn on my snap, and I'll create my boundary. That's what we're going to use for our actual roof. Then I'll tell that to, I could just apply an edit poly modifier over this, and I could just convert it equally to an editable polygon. If I convert that shape, it's a closed shape, so we should beware. It's a closed shape, there is no open point. So if I convert this to an editable poly, it covers it up. So, but most times I would always advise we use an edit poly modifier over it, because we might want to change the base property of this particular line, and we can always come back there to do that. Now what we now do is we'll now trace out this line, which is supposed to be the ridge on the cappings for our roof. So I'll go to my top viewport, turn on my wireframe mode, then I'll select that particular object which I actually applied an edit poly over. Then I'll start cutting it through. That area. So what I do now is I'll right click and say cut, then I'll start cutting through. I did this method in the previous tutorial, the very first tutorial I did on this website, and which you can as well follow that if you don't really get what I've done here. So to get the roof out, let's see if we have it correctly, and I think we need one more cut. Let's go back to our top viewport, cut. Yeah, fine, we have that completed now. So, and we definitely don't need that. Turn off our snap. We definitely don't need this guy anymore, and we could delete it, and we could just let it, or hide it, something, and hide selection. Then we have this. So first thing, we take a look at our object and see how we've worked this. So what we do now, this is fine. Now what we now do is try to get the height of the roof. We'll go to our drawing here, and we try to get the height out. Let's get the height for this one. That's 3 meters, then the other one is 2 meters. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, from the sub-object level, we're going to pick our edge, then we move this up 3 meters. from our move it up 3 meters, and we move this up 2 meters, and you can see everything falls perfectly in place. Just one more thing to do would be to adjust. When we turn on our shaded mode, you can see it comes in nice. One more thing we need to do is adjust this area, and I can see a particular thing happening here where the mesh is flipping over and lapping into this area. So first let's adjust this. So to very much adjust it accurately, we'll go to our front viewport so that we can know where to place this and how high it goes from it. So we turn on our wireframe mode and we just set it precisely to be there, and that works it. And yeah, that little error we have from our lapping mesh, this is because the mesh is not really understanding what is happening here, so it's covering up and lapping it over here. So what we need to do is just cut an edge from here down to this point, so it actually covers that area up. So what we do is we turn on the snap and we cut through this area, and it fixes that error. And I think we have our roof. Then there are a couple of I think there are 2 types of roof methods, roof plugins that can be used to get corrugations, and you could as well use the one in my tutorial. Then the method I've used in my tutorial, using maps to create a displacement, the very first tutorial I made, it's called roof displacement map. So here now, and we just have this, and we have a object as good. Then we can bring it up over this building. We have to move it up because it's, and we use that. You can use that method we talked about in snapping using axis constraints. So let's have that way, and I think we just need to adjust this to fit this setting. Let's come from here and pick our vertices. Let's go to the top viewport and adjust it to size this, because we did this arbitrarily and we did not measure anything to get it done, and so it's quite bigger than the original thing. So let's turn on wireframe and keep that to work the way we want it. I think we want this to come out a little bit more. There, and I think we have good as that. So we have that, and we have our ceiling, and we have our roof. And it's one other thing I would always want you to do is, though it's well, it's actually necessary. It's not necessary basically, but it's just good to do it, and because you have a funny feel of look, like it's trying to round out the edges, is you select the object, this object, then you come here, you select the element, and you select it all, and you clear selection from here. So it actually makes it sharp looking, and it doesn't try to round off the edging or smooth it out. So let's just adjust this one right here a little bit more. If we show, okay, adjusting, and we can turn on show end results, so it shows what happens in the stack up, and it gives up. So we can come here, we fix that, and that is good for our roof. Then one more thing here is the small roof right here. We can create that, and I guess you can create that, put that in, then we would have a finished work. So this is where I wrap up this particular part of this tutorial. Then the next section I'll come up with a complete one with the roof fully done. Then we start texturing, adding maps, adding textures, and I'll show you how to get textures for the AEC objects, because the AEC objects already have their own sub-object, you know, because we have this to be, this is going to be aluminum and this is going to be glass, and it's a single object, and there are materials that are already pre-made for it by Autodesk, and you can just apply that and you can adjust it however you want it. Then for the walls, and we'll just apply some materials and go ahead with the rendering after that. I hope you enjoy this, and it's quite useful. Thank you.